The history and legacy of Native Americans stand as one of the most captivating chapters in the story of human civilization. While many recognize Native tribes as a people displaced from their homelands and left to fade into obscurity, few realize the hidden depth of their culture. Beneath the surface lies a vault of untold truths, startling, brilliant, and utterly transformative. These are not just cultural footnotes, they're revelations that challenge everything we thought we knew. In this journey through the forgotten pages of history, we'll reveal 9 astonishing facts about Native American tribes, secrets that unveil their ancient wisdom, linguistic brilliance, sacred traditions, and world-altering innovations. These aren't just facts, they are echoes of a people who, despite being silenced, have left an unshakable mark on our world. You're about to witness stories long buried by time, but not forgotten. So take a moment to settle in, relax, and prepare for a journey like no other. As you explore this incredible story with us, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to support this growing community. Native Americans, often called American Indians or Indigenous Americans, are the original inhabitants of what is now the United States. The term Indian itself came from a misunderstanding. Christopher Columbus believed he had landed in the East Indies and referred to the people he met as Indians. But Native American culture is much more than a misnamed past. These tribes carry with them a rich legacy of languages, customs, and sacred traditions. From the ancient wonders of the Anasazi to modern contributions in art and science, their history is a living tribute to survival and cultural brilliance. With more than 500 unique nations, Native communities today continue to keep their customs alive, fighting to preserve languages, celebrate heritage through festivals, and express identity through powerful artistic voices. Their impact on America's foundation is undeniable, and their voices still echo through our present. Today, more than 9 million Native Americans live across the United States, each representing a tribal nation with its own unique culture, language, and story. From the icy north of Alaska to the warm shores of Florida, these nations have called this land home for thousands of years. But how much do we truly know about them? Let's now explore the surprising truths and lesser-known marvels of their history. 1. Native Americans spoke more than 300 languages. Long before the first European ever set foot in North America, this continent rang with the sounds of more than 300 distinct native languages. Some scholars believe the true number could have reached 500. These languages formed the lifeblood of hundreds of tribes, each with its own worldview, customs, and stories passed down through generations. But much of this linguistic richness was lost over time due to aggressive government assimilation policies that sought to erase tribal identity. In 1868, President Ulysses S. Grant openly stated that language was the root of 2/3 of our trouble, a chilling insight into the mindset behind forced English education. As a result, many tribal languages faded into silence. Their barbarous dialects should be blotted out and the English language substituted. With these chilling words, a movement began, one that would silence generations. The campaign to suppress Native American languages accelerated in the 1800s, when thousands were forcibly displaced from their homelands and confined to reservations. But the damage ran deeper than stolen lands. Native children were taken from their families and placed in government-run Indian boarding schools, stripped of their names, forbidden to speak their languages, and punished for clinging to tradition. It wasn't until 1972, with the passage of the Indian Education Act, that tribes were finally granted the right to teach their native tongues. But by then, much had already vanished. By 2013, just 169 Native American languages remained in the U.S., many spoken by only a few elders. Facing cultural extinction, Congress took action in 1990, enacting the Native American Language Act to support preservation efforts. Still, the threat remains dire. Without urgent action, nearly every Native American language, except for 2, could disappear by 2050. The fight to save these voices is a race against time. 2, the first newspaper in a Native American language, was published in 1828. Before Europeans set foot on American soil, Native traditions flourished orally. Language passed from elder to child through stories, songs, and ritual. But colonization changed everything. As the written word took root, some tribes turned to writing as a tool of survival and empowerment. One of the most extraordinary examples of this came from the Cherokee Nation and a man named Sequoyah. A self-taught Cherokee blacksmith, Sequoyah spent 12 relentless years developing a writing system tailored to his people's unique sounds. In 1821, he unveiled the Cherokee syllabary, 86 characters representing the spoken language with uncanny accuracy. Dr. Ellen Cushman of the Cherokee Nation and professor at Northeastern University emphasizes the syllabary's brilliance. It stands alone in the world as the only writing system created by a native person exclusively for native use. Unlike borrowed systems like Japanese hiragana, the Cherokee syllabary was an organic creation, born of the land and tongue it represented. Within just a few years, Cherokee speakers could read and write fluently. That leap culminated in a historic moment on February 21, 1828, with the launch of the Cherokee Phoenix in New Echota, Georgia, the first bilingual newspaper in U.S. history, published in both Cherokee and English. The Cherokee Phoenix wasn't just a newspaper, it was a lifeline. Its pages carried not only the news, but also the soul of a people fighting to preserve their identity. The paper played a crucial role in maintaining and spreading the Cherokee language, culture, and political voice during a time of immense pressure from external forces. It became a symbol of how indigenous resilience and innovation could adapt and thrive even under colonial scrutiny. 3. There are 574 federally recognized tribes in the United States. Out of the 574 federally recognized tribes spread across the U.S., a striking 229 are located in Alaska alone. California follows as the second leading state, with 109 federally recognized tribes and the largest Native American population in the country. These recognized tribes possess a unique legal status, a sovereign nation standing in a government-to-government relationship with the United States. This recognition allows them to participate in negotiations and collaborations with federal agencies on matters affecting their lands and people. However, many tribes are still left without federal acknowledgement, rendering them ineligible for vital programs and services. This disparity leaves a gap in access to healthcare, education, and infrastructure support. By 2020, only 66 tribes had received state recognition across 13 states. While it doesn't grant the same legal benefits, it validates their cultural and historical presence, empowering these communities to push for more inclusion, collaboration, and development opportunities with both state and national entities. 4. Native Americans cultivated many of the world's most important crops. Long before modern agriculture shaped global economies, Native American tribes were already feeding the world. Their diets reflected the ecosystems they lived in, using agricultural knowledge refined over thousands of years. Farming was foundational for many tribes, who domesticated a wide variety of plants that still feed billions today. By 2016, an estimated 60% of the global food supply was derived from crops first cultivated in North America. Corn, perhaps the crown jewel of their agricultural legacy, was first domesticated around 10,000 years ago in southern Mexico and Guatemala. By the time European colonists arrived, indigenous people across the continent had been farming corn for millennia. But corn wasn't alone. Beans, squash, potatoes, and tomatoes were also cultivated with skill and care. These staples not only nourished native communities, but became cornerstones of cuisines around the world, reshaping agriculture and diets on a global scale. 5. The Haudenosaunee Confederacy, one of the oldest democracies on Earth. The Haudenosaunee Confederacy, known to the French as the Iroquois Confederacy, was formed by 6 sovereign nations: the Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, Cayuga, Tuscarora, and Seneca. While scholars often date its creation to the year 1142, the Confederacy itself asserts that its roots stretch back to time immemorial. Regardless of the timeline, it is universally acknowledged as one of the oldest functioning participatory democracies in human history. These nations united under the Great Law of Peace, called Kayanarakoa, which operates as their foundational constitution. In the 1700s, the Tuscarora became the 6th and final tribe to join the alliance. Dr. Donald A. Grind Jr., author of Exemplar of Liberty and a professor of Yamasee descent at the University at Buffalo, emphasizes what sets this system apart. While democratic principles existed in many tribal societies, the Haudenosaunee were exceptional in their ability to unify distant groups under a single, cooperative political framework. Grind's research notes three revolutionary ideas passed from the Haudenosaunee to the framers of the U.S. Constitution. First, the principle that true sovereignty belongs to the people. Second, the importance of dividing government power into separate branches. And third, the practice of reciting foundational laws annually, just as the Haudenosaunee recited the Great Law of Peace, foreshadowing the structured constitutionalism of the United States. 6. The tragedy of the Indian Removal Act of 1830. Long before colonizers arrived, Native American tribes lived across every region of what we now call the United States. But in 1830, their lives were forever changed. President Andrew Jackson signed the Indian Removal Act, a law driven by settlers' hunger for land, particularly in the fertile South where cotton was booming. The tribes most affected included the Choctaw, Cherokee, Creek, and others. Under this cruel legislation, Native people were forcibly stripped of their homes in states like Georgia, Alabama, Florida, North Carolina, and Tennessee. They were marched to unfamiliar territory in what is now Oklahoma, an area designated as Indian Territory. These forced relocations were brutal, with thousands perishing along the way. This mass displacement would later be known as the Trail of Tears. The Indian Removal Act stands as one of the most shameful episodes in U.S. history, a calculated, state-sanctioned effort to erase indigenous presence in favor of economic exploitation. The trauma of this era still echoes in Native communities today. It serves as a painful but necessary reminder of the need to confront historical wrongs, honor the resilience of those who survived, and strive for justice, healing, and reconciliation. 7. Native Americans gained U.S. citizenship in 1924. A turning point in Native American civil rights came with the Indian Citizenship Act, signed into law by President Calvin Coolidge on June 2, 1924. Though some Native Americans had already obtained U.S. citizenship through the Dawes Act of 1887, which required acceptance of land allotments in exchange for status, the path to full recognition was still fraught with barriers. Even after the 1924 Act granted blanket citizenship to all Native Americans born within U.S. territories, the right to vote remained elusive. Voting laws were controlled by individual states, many of which refused to extend suffrage to Native populations. Tactics such as literacy tests, poll taxes, and residency requirements were used to disenfranchise them for decades. This act, though monumental, didn't immediately guarantee equality. The legal recognition was symbolic without enforcement of civil rights. Still, it marked a vital step forward. Native Americans continued to fight, state by state, for their rights to be heard. Their struggle reflects the broader American journey, a reminder that liberty for many has always come at a cost. 8. The Navajo Nation has the largest tribal land in the United States. Stretching across nearly 25,000 square miles of arid deserts, towering mesas, and sacred canyons, the Navajo Nation is more than a reservation. It's a sovereign world within a world, one that speaks to the soul of resilience and the power of identity. This immense territory spans across Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah, making it not only the largest Native American reservation in the United States, but also one of the most culturally and linguistically rich regions in North America. Encompassing a landmass nearly equivalent to the size of West Virginia and larger than 10 entire U.S. states, the Navajo Nation is a living testament to a people who, against all odds, held fast to their traditions, their language, and their spirit. In 2021, the Navajo Nation surpassed even the Cherokee Nation in terms of registered population, reaching nearly 400,000 members. A remarkable milestone, not just in numbers, but in representation, survival, and pride. These are not just census figures, they're stories. Stories of grandparents who still speak the sacred Diné Biçade language, of young leaders returning to their roots to revitalize culture, and of communities fiercely dedicated to preserving the ancient rhythms of Navajo life. Their population's strength signals something profound. Despite centuries of forced relocation, assimilation policies, and systemic marginalization, the Navajo continue to thrive, not as relics of the past, but as powerful voices of the present. What truly distinguishes the Navajo Nation is its devotion to language preservation. Today, the Navajo language remains the most spoken native tongue in the U.S., and its significance is monumental. During World War II, it served as the foundation for the unbreakable military code used by the legendary Navajo code talkers, young men who used their mother tongue to save thousands of lives on distant battlefields. That same language is now taught in schools, echoed in ceremonies, and preserved through digital platforms to ensure that the next generation never loses this vital link to their heritage. From sacred healing practices to thriving artisan communities and renewable energy initiatives, the Navajo Nation is actively shaping its own future while honoring its sacred past. Their land is vast, yes, but their legacy is immeasurable. 9. Native Americans experience higher rates of suicide than any other groups in the U.S. Beneath the rich culture and enduring legacy of Native American communities lies a harrowing truth, a silent epidemic that continues to haunt the hearts of families and tribes across the country. Suicide, especially among Native American youth, remains one of the most alarming and heartbreaking crises in modern America. It is not just a statistic, it is a wound passed down through generations. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the Indian Health Service, Native youth face suicide rates up to 2.5 times higher than the national average. Behind those numbers are lost futures, grieving families, and a cry for help that far too often goes unanswered. This crisis cannot be understood without confronting its roots. For centuries, Native communities endured colonization, forced removal, cultural erasure, and historical trauma. Children were torn from their families and placed in government boarding schools, where their languages were beaten out of them. Entire nations were forced to relocate, stripping them not only of land, but of identity and stability. The echoes of this trauma are not confined to the past. They live on in the form of poverty, substance abuse, generational pain, and a persistent lack of access to adequate mental health services. For many Native youth, feelings of isolation, cultural disconnection, and hopelessness are daily battles. In remote areas, help can be hundreds of miles away. And even where resources exist, they are often culturally irrelevant, offering little understanding of indigenous values, spirituality, or family dynamics. This mismatch leaves many youth to suffer in silence, trapped between two worlds, unsure where they belong. Yet amid the pain, there is hope. Across the country, Native-led programs are rising, offering holistic, culturally grounded healing strategies that reconnect youth with their heritage, language, and purpose. Elders are stepping in to teach sacred stories and rituals. Communities are opening safe spaces for expression, creativity, and support. Conclusion: honoring the legacy and facing the future. The story of Native Americans is not just carved into ancient rock or whispered in windswept canyons. It's alive, burning with memory, struggle, and unyielding spirit. From the first footfalls on this land to the challenges faced today, Native tribes have borne the weight of history and emerged with something unbreakable: dignity. Their heritage is not a relic of the past, but a living, evolving force that continues to influence the world in profound ways. These 9 facts are only the beginning, windows into deeper truths that have too long remained hidden or ignored. Across this land, tribal nations are rising, reclaiming languages nearly lost, revitalizing ceremonies long forbidden, and retelling their stories on their own terms. Whether it's through art that paints their pain and triumph in vivid color, through schools that teach children their true names and histories, or through protests that demand justice and sovereignty, Native Americans are asserting, we are still here, and not just surviving, but leading. In medicine, in science, in activism, in the preservation of the earth itself, indigenous voices are becoming louder and more vital than ever. But true respect means more than acknowledgement. It means action. It means supporting tribal sovereignty, funding mental health programs, protecting sacred lands from corporate exploitation, and ensuring indigenous communities have access to clean water, healthcare, and education. It means unlearning the myths, amplifying Native voices, and recognizing that reconciliation is a path we must walk together, with humility and truth. As we close this journey through history and legacy, let us not forget that every story shared is a spark that can ignite curiosity, empathy, and change. Thank you for walking this path with us. If this video moved you, if it opened your eyes or your heart, share it. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Like and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Because the stories of Native America are far from over. They are just beginning a new chapter.